Welcome to episode 75 of the Champagne Comedy Podcast, where we talk about the best Australian comedy show from the 90s ever made, Frontline, and other D-Generation comedy tidbits. My name is Matt, and joining us on this podcast today is Alison, Daniel, Kim and Tony.
Hi.
Hey. Well, what a time, and at this moment we're just at the beginning of winter 2025. So when you listen to this...
Well, all of us except one.
Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Alison.
I don't know.
You're lucky so-and-so. What's the temperature over in
Jeffrey Salter,
London,
what is
Alison?
the weather over there?
Well, let me get the BBC weather app going. It's a balmy and hot 14 with rain expected.
Basically the same as it is here.
Typical London weather.
Fantastic.
It's 17 here. It still feels cold.
In winter.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
And you guys are complaining. How
Yes.
ridiculous.
Ah.
Yeah, 12.6 degrees in Adelaide. Feels like 6 according to the Bureau.
It's 10.2 here and a wide range of warnings all of a sudden. Hang on. So if I cut out rapidly, it's because of the flood, marine wind, or sheep graziers warning.
What's the sheep graziers warning?
Watch out
It's
for all
going
the
to be
sheep.
cold, wet, and rainy. That's all it is. It's just, I guess, bring the sheep in.
Cold, wet, and woolly. Come on. Missed pun.
That's a bad.
Well, I only found one little thing for back chat, and it's more or less Mick Malloy was on his breakfast show, Mick in the Morning, talking about TISM, Greg the Stop Sign aria clip that we spoke about last episode, as well as other previous episodes where TISM just somehow manages to seg itself into the show.
How does that song, Greg the Stop Sign by TISM, involve you, Mick Malloy, and you, Nick Revolt?
Yeah.
What's the link?
Weren't you in one of their film clips?
See, this is funny. I had no memory of it, but it popped up recently in my feed, and I feel it might have something to do with the
Arias.
Arias.
Yeah, the song came out in 1995 by TISM, who are one of the greatest bands
I
of
love
all time. The end of 1995, the ARIA Awards, I think, was hosted by Richard Stubbs.
Yes.
TISM appeared on the opening of that ARIA Awards. Involves them in a lift.
In a lift, and me and Tony were in a lift.
Yeah, so
Yes.
Michael Veitch is in it. Richard
All
Stubbs was there in the
that.
lift, and then a very young Tony Martin and Australia's little sweetheart in a little beanie, Mick Malloy. You were in the video,
Yes.
and then it
Luscious
started
hair
the
too, Mickey.
arias.
They did a little bit of himbo action
Yeah,
in
luscious.
that lift. So much talent in the one lift.
That's true.
Australia's
Bimbos.
little sweetheart. Well, that's what I'm going to call Mick Malloy from now on.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, that was my only bit.
Well, I've got a couple. The first one is an announcement that a member of the original D-Generation made on Instagram. This is something that Magda Jabansky announced.
Hello, my lovelies. So the head is shaved in anticipation of it all falling out in a couple of weeks because I have just been diagnosed with a very rare, very aggressive, very serious lymphoma. It is one of the nasty ones, unfortunately. But the good thing is I'm surrounded by beautiful friends and family and an incredible medical support team. Honestly, we have the best in the world here in Australia, particularly in Melbourne, so I feel very fortunate. It's pretty confronting. It is a full-on one, but new treatments keep coming down the pipeline all the time. So, you know, I just got to. What do you do? What are you going to do? Anyway, love is all. I'll put more in the blurb. Please keep a distance though, because I will be very immunocompromised, so I can't hug no more. Bye.
She was laughing, by the way.
Even in such a serious announcement, she can't help but crack up.
Thoughts are with you, Magda, for a really healthy recovery.
Get tested and listen to your body, she says.
Yeah, I think she just felt something was off, and she asked for a blood test, and that's when they found it. A friend of mine who was also very, very early stages of breast cancer and had absolutely no lump, but just felt a bit off. So good message from Magda there to just trust her instincts there.
Yeah.
And Daniel, you got something else?
In 2023, Russell Coight appeared in ads for Mitsubishi's Outlander plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. And in 2025, he returns in a new ad campaign for Mitsubishi's Triton Ute. Now, I wasn't going to mention this, but the reason I mention it now is because it got reviewed on a marketing and media website called Mumbrella. So this is the ad. Now, because it's a bit visual, I'll just let you know that Russell is battling a very large tree log and basically another aspirational couple in a Triton comes along.
G'day, I'm Russell Coight. Clearing fallen trees is a part of life in the sticks. Lucky for these show ponies in that flashy new ute, I've come prepared, because there are no shortcuts out here. Except for that one.
Mitsubishi's most capable ute ever. Nothing can frighten a Triton.
10-year warranty. It's almost a decade.
According to Mumbrella, like the 2023 campaign, this year's campaign was co-written and co-directed by Tom Gleisner and Santo Cilauro. So I would say that there's a bit of protection in there, just trying to protect their creation. It got reviewed in Mumbrella. So Jodie Elston, Chief Strategy Officer at 303 Mullenlow, Sydney. Not that I need to tell you that, you know who Jodie Elston is. She gave it a 9 out of 10 and said that this spot brings distinctiveness and fun and keeps the long-standing and sticky line of nothing can frighten a Triton. Coight may carry a bit of cultural cringe, but he also evokes deep nostalgia, and he's very effectively used as the foil for the more aspirational Mitsubishi drivers. And Ernie Chiaschetti, senior copywriter at Howitson and Company, gave it a 7 out of 10 and said, Russell Coight, a ute, a gag, what else could a punter want? It might not be the most groundbreaking use of a celebrity, but it's entertaining. The spot is well-paced, it looks great, it doesn't try too hard, and it's up there on the better end of car adverts. Overall, a solid spot, and hopefully not the last time we see Russell and Mitsubishi.
Did Russell Howcroft give his reaction, and was it?
Yeah, he's clapping.
Was it that?
Yes, I was a bit worried that this was going to turn into Gruen 2.0.
Well, I'm sure, cultural cringe, that's not the right label for it, because Coight is still relevant and topical and very generic. Or I hate to say the term evergreen, as a lot of media people use, but the cultural cringe would be, say, if you got Pluck a Duck going in a Triton or whatever. It's kind of like, when he did that KFC ad and he was doing skateboarding down the hillside.
I think it's a bit like calling Russell Coight cultural cringe sort of forgets the fact that he is a parody of a cultural cringe kind of archetype.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a weird, dumb comment, I think.
I guess it's just a way to sort of explain what Coit's sort of appeal is. He's a cringeworthy character. I mean, it's not cultural cringe, but him himself is kind of, the whole shtick is him doing things that make you cringe, but that's always been his act, and that's the whole sort of point of it. It's intentional, whereas cultural cringe kind of makes it sound like some legacy character from the 80s, which everyone's kind of a bit embarrassed about.
I wonder if they know if they know Russell Coight's his surname.
Maybe they're taking it
the
seriously
surname itself, like if they know what Coight means. So
I guess for a lot of
rings that you chuck onto sticks. That's a Coight. It is.
Well, I guess for a lot of the advertising world, Russell Coight exists somewhere beneath them in the hoi polloi while they're all off, I don't know, sipping Chardonnay at some fancy dinner party and discussing, I don't know, whatever's happening at MoMA or wherever.
Yeah, they're not watching character comedy shows.
It's all in this week's TV Week, packed with great family entertainment.
Jesus! Unfold that centerfold in the TV Week and tell us what's going on in the program guide, Daniel.
Well, looking at the letters, there's a few letters talking about bad language on the ABC.
Oh, bottom!
Oh, no.
Just about. Jason Coghill of Leopold writes, "Shame on ABC Radio National for airing such foul-mouthed, blasphemous and sexually immoral filth as it did on its arts program on Friday, 11th of April. And this at 11:30 in the morning. I'm just thankful that at this time most children were at school."
Well, I would have listened in if it was blasphemous filth. Come on.
Yeah.
The actors were joking about being drunk, using the F word, saying P dashed out of my brain, and talking about picking up a woman and being in bed with her using immoral sexual connotations. Do we really want this stuff on our radio?
Yes.
So hang on, this is a radio drama program? This is like a...
sounds like an interview.
Radio arts of some sort.
It sounds like they interviewed, the cast of a play or something. It sounds like an interview where they were stuffing around a bit.
Oh, and they recorded a bit of them performing the play, and that's...
Yeah, possibly.
And the play's quite sexually explicit.
I thought they were talking about maybe that they were talking about repairing cars, and they've the piston had gone in the cars, so they were saying the piston broke.
Yes.
There's a lot of well-known theatre about mechanics.
Yes.
I think David Williamson actually maybe wrote one.
Streetcar Named Desire.
The Removalist, this is the closest I can get.
The problem is that reference doesn't come from The Simpsons, so no one else here is going to get it. It's got to be, one of the plays they made fun of on The Simpsons.
I'll leave that one for the Four Finger Discount podcast.
But there's more. Rowan Bravington from Frankston writes, "I'm appalled at the increasing foul language being telecast by the ABC. During a Four Corners report on casinos, a prospective licensee was quoted during a telephone call with a federal politician as using the F word. Why was it considered appropriate to telecast it at 8:40 p.m.?
It was 8:40 p.m. and it's fine. You're allowed to do that.
It was casino. They were talking about funds, money.
Also, is anyone going to write in and complain about all the soft cocks on Frontline? Because there's quite a few, and that's on even earlier than Four Corners. Or are you getting to that?
There wasn't mention of Frontline, but there was another one from Ian J. Gordon in Bendigo, which is sort of more comedy related. He writes, "I am no stranger to colourful language, but the performance of the Melbourne International Comedy Debate on ABC TV on the 10th of April was quite beyond the pale. The behaviour on stage was disgusting, with overt lesbian and homosexual activity.
Oh my God, lesbians!
When two of the women with lipstick smeared all over their face and one proudly stating she had put her tongue in had resumed their seats, two of the men engaged in similar acts. The smirking claim by Paul McDermott that he, quote, has spilled his seed in his pants, unquote, was an indication of his puerility. This latter-day Onan should be relegated to the sewage farm."
Latter-day Onan. To be fair to these people who are obviously an organised group of Christians or something, they're quite literary in their complaints.
Yeah,
latter-day Onan.
Surely wanker would have sufficed.
No, you don't.
No, that's
a swear
uncouth,
word.
Tony.
That's an uncouth word. Onan, an onanist is.
Onanist. I just said Odin.
Once they said Paul McDermott, I was like, oh yeah, this sounds pretty much on the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing here is a bit of a culture clash between, I'm guessing, older people and people of our age who are just don't really care about swear words and lesbianism and all that.
Alison, it's a cultural cringe.
Well,
yes,
I think those people complaining are the cultural cringe. They're the wowzers who are writing in to go, how dare they use the word shit? When ordinary society doesn't give a shit.
Sorry, pun corner. He's having a cultural whinge.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Russell Howcroft approves.
Yeah, I did a bit of a Russell Howcroft bingo the other day because I was watching a few episodes with my partner. I said, Alison has mentioned how Russell Howcroft does this, and it was about 5 or 6 times during the whole episode.
Yeah,
So
look out for them. They're great fun.
Now, there were a couple of letters about Frontline in the Green Guide. Thankfully, they're short. So the first one goes like this. Thanks to the ABC for gracing our small screen with one of the most remarkable pieces of television for some time. With its daring expose, poignant dialogues, impeccable cast, and a consummate delivery of satirical wit, Frontline is a veritable triumph for the Australian television industry. The recent episode, A Hole in My Heart, about media manipulation and hypocrisy was not only unerringly incisive, it was also intellectually entertaining. And that was from Tony DeYoung, Noble Park.
Sorry to get all, hold on.
Pedantry.
On that.
Yeah, you spotted it too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, well.
Didn't get the title of the episode correct, but and the Age didn't correct it either.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they would be as up on Frontline episode titles as we are.
Well, they clearly weren't. Yeah.
The other one goes back to that same episode, A Hole in the Heart, and it's responding to a letter I read out, basically saying that the abortion storyline that Brooke had was in very poor taste. So the letter goes like this. Contrary to Anne MacDonald, I believe Frontline is to be commended for not succumbing to the typical right to choose orthodoxy usually adopted in media treatments of the subject. When Prowsey learnt to his horror that Brooke wanted to keep the baby, he set about manipulating circumstances to make her, quote, get rid of it, unquote. Brooke's abortion was an act of social/career obligation. Perhaps Ms. MacDonald missed the irony of Mike Moore waxing lyrical about Frontline having saved a child while Brooke was at the abortion clinic. And that's from Melinda Tankard-Reist of Macquarie ACT.
That's a really good letter, actually.
And I recognise the name because Melinda Tankard-Reist is a writer and media commentator who describes herself as an advocate for women and girls and a pro-life feminist, and was a co-founder of the group Collective Shout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a bit of something to think about there. Okay, onto the program guide proper. Now, starting with the ABC, at 7:30 was a special edition of the 7:30 report called Port Arthur Now. So basically, it's almost a year as we're going through Frontline. It's almost a year since the Port Arthur massacre. So it's actually fully 1 year in a week's time. But there's a whole lot of reports on how people are doing. Just a year after the tragedy, and it's not the only one. Next week there's a special program by reporter and sometime interviewer Sarah Henderson, following on the progress of 4 survivors over the past year. So, thankfully after that, you've got Frontline to try and lighten the mood a little bit. Then after Four Corners and Media Watch, it's the first episode of a new 6-part series in which Australia's leading comedians provide a comical insight into their lives and careers.
Oh, is it Smallest Room in the House?
It is Smallest Room in the House. Well done, Alison.
That was just a guess from the description. Yeah.
Fictional Tim Tams go to you.
Thank you.
I was able to find 3 episodes on YouTube, only 2 of which are for this first series. And basically the first one is titled An Ordinary Life, and it's written and performed by Sue Ann Post. Here's a bit of it.
I am somewhat different to other comics. I'm very big. I have very short hair. And you can't see them, but I'm wearing comfortable shoes. I believe you're with me. To put it bluntly, I am a big old lezo. No one ever looks shocked. I should point out that is my preferred term. Big old lezo. You know, because those other words, lesbian, homosexual, they're so cold, so clinical. I like big old lezo. You know, it's sort of warm and cuddly, a little bit friendly. And let's face it, it's just bloody Australian. You know, I just know there are people out there who are going, oh, she's a big old lezo. But she's all right. She drinks beer and she likes chicks.
So yeah, this is a series with comedians sort of doing half-hour versions of very personal stand-up shows.
I remember that Sue Ann Post program, and she wrote a book about a year or so afterwards, which basically was that show but a lot expanded, sort of autobiographical thing. And she did a few things afterwards, but she seems to have disappeared as a comedian. Does anyone know like what happened there?
No.
No.
Well, I guess
it's a shame. She was really big and good, you know.
I'll have a look because the name, you know, I think the name still does crop up here and there, but she may very well be doing sort of more behind the scenes stuff.
So the Sue Ann Post episode is up on YouTube, and there is some sexual abuse which is mentioned in the show. It's the sort of thing where if it was broadcast today, there would be trigger warnings before it and helpline numbers after it, kind of thing. So thankfully, there is, you know, a fair bit of comedy out of it, but it comes from some very raw places. Okay, going to Channel 7, 7:30, it's Australia's Most Wanted, hosted by Roger Clemson. Full Frontal, Season 5.
Season 5.
Full Frontal at 8:30, Season 5, Episode 2. And then at 9:30, Millennium. Season 1, Episode 3 originally aired in the US in November 1996. Millennium Group consultant Frank Black, Lance Henriksen, is sent to evaluate a prospective member of the group who perform investigative work and liaise with law enforcement. Meeting this hopeful member, Jim Horn, Black is drawn to investigate a serial killer operating in the area while Horn begins to unravel under the strain of the case.
What? An episode of Millennium about a serial killer? What? Who saw that coming?
I know, and they even skipped an episode too. It was the pilot episode last week.
That used to happen a lot on Channel 7. They would often drop episodes or shift them around to suit.
Oh, there's an even bigger jump coming up on one of the other channels. On SBS, we've got the National Soccer League highlights at 7:30. At 8:30, we've got Masterpiece looking at Wynton Marsalis, the world-renowned jazz trumpeter and composer who talks about his music and the people who have influenced his career. There's also a slight newsy connection with Wynton Marsalis. He's the one that plays the trumpet theme song to the CBS Sunday morning show in the US. So it's copyrighted music, so you'll have to look it up yourself. But if you look up Wynton Marsalis, CBS Sunday morning, you can see him doing quite a very Sunday morning kind of trumpet piece. And then at 9:30, we've got a 1991 movie called Hangin' with the Homeboys, which it's one of those ones where 4 characters go through a single night where a whole bunch of stuff happens. So, 4 dudes from the South Bronx, 2 black, 2 Puerto Rican, vacillate against determination and inevitability in the course of a normal day that is anything but normal. They don't know it, but this is a crossroads. Events of the Friday Arvo will carry them through to dawn on Saturday so fast that their stepping stones will vanish behind them. Stars Dougie Doug, Mario Joyner, Nesta Serrano, and John Leguizamo. Going across to Channel 9 at 7:30, we've got Friends. It's Season 2, Episode 19, the one where Eddie won't go, originally aired in the US in March 1996. Creeped out by his bizarre new roommate, Eddie, Chandler demands he move out Meanwhile, Joey struggles with losing his job on Days of Our Lives and the accompanying downfall in his lifestyle. So much so that he auditions for a bit part as a taxi driver.
All the way to the airport, huh? That's gonna cost you about $so.
Excuse me, that's $50.
Oh, you know what it is? It's smudgy because they're fax pages. Now, when I was on Days of Our Lives as Dr. Drake Ramore, they'd send over the whole script on real paper and everything.
That's great.
And just so you know, if you wanted to expand this scene, like have the cab crash or something, I could attend to the victims because I have a background in medical acting.
Then at 8 o'clock, it's another episode of The Drew Carey Show. I thought it was a one-off, but it's back for another week. And it was a season 1 episode last week, but this week it's season 2, episode 1.
Oh, nice.
Titled We'll Remember Always Evaluation Day. Drew and Lisa's relationship gets rocky. All they do is argue every day. At work, Winifred Lauder's staffers suck up to Drew on employee evaluation day, but Lisa is livid when she sees her less than complimentary evaluation early. Now, this episode is probably better known for having a full musical number set to 5 o'clock World by the Vogue.
Yes. Up every morning just to keep my job. Sorry.
Yeah, that's enough, or else we will get a copyright strike, I'm sure.
I've got the box set.
Yeah, well, anybody who's followed Matt on Blue Sky knows that he's been going through his recently acquired DVD
and
box
it's completely sold out.
It's
completely sold out.
So you'll probably be able to tell us whether
it's in there.
What music replaces 5 o'clock World by the Vogues? Is it a completely different song?
No,
or
they've paid the money for it, so it's all there.
Oh, okay.
Same with
didn't even get some generic studio session musicians to do.
Nope. I'm active on the Drew Carey Show Reddit page, so have a look at that. We're breaking down the bits and pieces of it, including season 3 when they introduce Cleveland Rocks by Presidents of the USA, and the entire thing is there. So they use those. So
they spent out a little bit of money.
Yeah.
All right. So at 8:30 we've got Water Rats season 2 episode 11 titled Goldie's Trip.
Oh, okay.
Right.
No, please. I want to see how they incorporate the water police on land.
Rachel goes undercover as a drug courier aboard an incoming yacht from Thailand.
Okay.
But things go terribly wrong when her cover is blown and the desperate drug dealers kidnap her at gunpoint.
Wait. But she's already on the boat. How do they kidnap her? Do they just say, well, now you've been kidnapped? And she's like,
they lock her in a cabin, I assume. But
they put one of those metal latch hooks on it, when you're locked in. With a couple of bumps, it will come open.
Then at 9:30 in Melbourne, it's IMT with Frank Holden, Denise Drysdale, Julia Morris, and Stephen Jacobs. And in Sydney, it's Super League, round 8, Penrith Panthers versus Brisbane Broncos. Who do you reckon would win in a fight between Panthers and Broncos?
Broncos.
You don't think the Panthers would, scratch the shit out of the Broncos or anything like that?
No.
I think
I'm talking actual Panthers and Broncos, not the teams.
Oh, okay.
I think the Panther would win.
I'd say the horse is faster than the Panther. So a Bronco's faster, can outrun a Panther. Panther only does sprints.
But a panther is the fastest land animal there is, isn't it?
No, it's cheetah. The cheetah's the fastest land animal.
What?
Unfortunately, there's no sports team called the Cheetahs.
Well, there are lots of cheetahs, but just not called the cheetahs.
Yeah,
very true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cricket is where you need to look for them.
No, or the Houston Astros. Yeah. So
I think the winner would be the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
As well as the Penrith Panthers who won 27-26.
You can tell we're not sports fans because we're talking about friendship and harmony between people.
No,
and trying to work out which sports teams will win by working out which of their animal representatives would kill the other one.
When are you going to ask us about rabbitohs? Because that is an animal that doesn't exist or a thing that doesn't. Wasn't the rabbitoh just someone who sold rabbits? right? So, like, someone who sells rabbits versus a cheetah, probably the cheetah's going to win that one, especially if he's dangling rabbits around.
Just to go
Ask us the real questions.
Just to get off the sports and go back a second. For IMT, is Frank Holden what his mother calls him when it's Frankie J. Holden?
That's when he knows he's in trouble.
It's listed in the Green Guide as Frank Holden and Stephen Jacobs.
Well, yeah, because you would assume it would, as you get older, he would eventually become Frank Holden. But yeah, it seems he went the other way and decided to be young and hip and in with the kids as Frankie J.
He went Frankie J because of Old 55, so he kind of wanted to sound retro.
Can I just make a really boring point here?
Please.
Frankie J. Holden is an adopted name, and his real name's Peter Bryan.
So stage name.
That's like two first
although
names.
Wikipedia does say Frankie J. Holden OAM, born Peter Bryan, also known as Frank Holden, is an Australian singer, actor, and TV presenter. So, yeah.
Multiple aliases. What has he got to hide? Up next on Frontline.
Alison there with that disturbing report. Up next, Tony.
Something to think about there.
Yes.
Okay, moving to Channel 10. And yes, there's finally a listing for Healthy, Wealthy and Wise.
Sorry, just excited. Just trying to do a live remix there.
Your button-pushing fingers trembling at the news.
Yes.
Thank you, Bunny.
And one more time.
You really could, you could do like a hip-hop number with that sting in the background, I'm sure.
If someone did a remix of Totally Wild, then I'm sure I can do this with Healthy, Wealthy and Wise. I did it with Ship to Shore.
I think we found a challenge for for episode 13 of this season.
Don't make me work. Come on, I've put enough time and effort into this podcast already.
So, according to the listing, Peter test drives the new generation of bicycles.
Oh, huzzah.
Richard looks at the history and culture of surfing in Torquay.
Oh.
And Len discovers that making noises does wonders for your well-being.
Were the noises she was making following something she'd eaten that was cooked by Ian?
The gurgitator. Sorry.
What type of noises is Lynn making?
Oh, goodness.
Unfortunately, that's all the listing gives me.
That sounds like a good...
I'm imagining Lynn doing some sort of Anchorman type warm-up noises.
You could do a whole podcast on those listings.
What noise does Lynn make the podcast?
I'm just worried about the insight into the surfing community at Torquay. I just saw that Nicolas Cage movie, The Surfer, and I'm assuming it's the same sort of thing where a terrifying band of local thugs just beat up anyone who shows up looking to surf.
Yeah, who are all teeth.
Well, Julian McMahon's in the Surfer as the leader of the evil surfy cult that menaces poor old Nicolas Cage, who ends up sleeping in his car at the car park.
I was going to say it's more or less a Dr. Doom sleeping on the beach.
Well, I've asked ChatGPT, actually, what noise does Lynn from Healthy, Wealthy and Wise make in 1997? In the 1997, it says in the 1997 episodes, Lynn Talbot, who is the show's resident well-being and relaxation expert, was known for demonstrating breathing techniques, gentle stretches, and stress relief exercises. One sound she sometimes made for well-being was a loud humming or om-like tone, often during deep breathing or vocal vibration exercises. These sounds are beneficial because they resonate in the chest and head, creating a calming effect as part of sound therapy or mantra meditation, which Lynn occasionally referenced. So the noise she would make would be something like, soft, drawn out.
That's just Mike Moore.
So that means Mike Moore is the calmest person in the world.
That's right.
Judging by that metric.
I can just see it'll be more or less Lynn Talbot after her meditation.
I think ChatGPT's hallucinating, and I think we should ignore its views.
So I don't know if that's real. It sounds plausible, but then anything ChatGPT
I want to
says,
see the sources. What are the sources?
It says, let me know if you want a visual version.
No, I don't want that. Leave me alone.
But Kim, I'm so impressed that you continued on reading that during Lynn's flatulence.
Yes. Well, that was the calm noise, wasn't it?
Yeah. I just assumed she was like the one off the Police Academy movies, just making a whole bunch.
Michael Winslow.
Michael Winslow.
No, okay. So, yeah, Mike Moore's number 2, Michael Winslow number 1, calmest person in the world now. All right, at 8:30 we've got Peak Practice Season 2.
Not Mick Malloy's low.
Dutch ovens.
Do you have a Mick Malloy's low on the Brown album or something? Sorry. Keep going, Daniel.
That's
We're
all right.
almost there.
I know. We've taken so long, and we've got a short episode coming up as well. So there's no guarantee that this is going to be a short episode of the podcast.
Oh, goodness.
8:30 Peak Practice, Season 2, Episode 8, aired in April 1994, titled Life Changes. Beth treats a close friend suffering from back problems. When osteoporosis is diagnosed, she helps her come to terms with her condition. Then at 9:35, Medivac, Season 2, Episode 6, a woman claims to have been abducted by aliens. Arch, Bree and Macy believe her grief over losing her husband may be affecting her. With Graham Blundell, Grant Bowler, Danielle Carter, and what's the name of this Skyhook Sky? Shirley Strawn.
Sky, and that Skyhook Sky.
I might have made up that last one.
The Skyhook Sky. Sure wasn't Red Simons.
The Skyhooks.
Yeah, he looks more alien-like than Shirley, I'm guessing.
The bloke with the blonde hair, he looks kind of quite weird. He looks more Hitler Youth.
Oh, God. Anyway.
Allegedly.
All right,
Apologies if he's still alive. Cut that bit.
All right, we've crapped on for far too long. And, we've got to get on to this episode quick. Get on.
I think we do, yeah. So thank you very much, Daniel. We've lost Alison. She's like completely lost it. By the way, I don't have a special guest, so you're going to have to insert your own name here, listener. Hello, I'm Beep. This is Frontline Season 3, Episode 9, The Art of the Interview, broadcast Monday, April 21st, 1997.
Congratulations, listener! And I hope you all did that out loud, confounding anybody on the bus sitting next to you.
And the synopsis of this episode: an up-and-coming executive producer seeks advice from Prowsey on what makes Mike such a good interviewer. With a little help from Emma and Marty, they dissect the art of the interview. Over his years at the Frontline desk, Mike Moore has become a master interviewer. More like a master debater. Whether it's sucking up to a sports... Oh, thank you for the sympathy smile, Tony.
I smile with that joke.
Yeah, thank you. Whether it's sucking up to a sports star or nailing a crooked politician... I'll say it again. Whether it's sucking up to a sports star or nailing a crooked politician, Mike has a trick for every occasion. Is it any wonder they call him the Velvet Hammer? Wow.
And yeah, this is the shortest episode of Frontline in the whole series.
And we're done because the synopsis...
21 minutes and 10 seconds. And also a slight bit of self-pedantry, because I think I said when we were talking about the remastered episodes going out on ABC iView that I thought there might have been some changes between the original and the remastered version. I can say that, yeah, there are no changes. Don't play the Mike Moore grab. We made that joke last episode.
Okay.
Basically, no cuts to this one, and it's a short one at just over 21 minutes.
It was. This one was actually quite hard to get, say, audio grabs or dissect it a little bit because it was more or less one
it's
topic.
It's a clip show. really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a flashback episode kind of thing almost, isn't it?
It's
Where
stylized like that, but the fact is
episode.
that all the interviews are all like done purposely for these bits. So it's a lot of tie changes.
To me, it seems a bit like one of those industrial instructional videos.
Yeah.
Because I mean, basically it's Prousey, mentoring
Steve Barrett, who is
fresh off home renovations show.
Yes, well, TV producer Steve Barrett, that is, played by the arse of Chances, Jeremy Sims. This has been a while. Steve arrives in the office, much to the joy of the frontline staff.
Pricey, Steve Barrett's here.
Tell that soft cock to piss off.
He's joking.
I know, Dom.
Yeah, but it's still rude.
Hey, congratulations, Mr. Executive Producer.
Thanks, Sam.
Mwah.
And if you're ever thinking of jumping ship...
I sleep in on Sunday.
Well, you keep me in mind, because I need all the help I can get.
He's gorgeous.
Hey, golden boy.
Oh, don't you start.
Hey, the big move up.
Yeah, well, I think it might be the poison chalice, mate.
You fix it up. Listen, you don't need any hard-hitting, reputable and experienced journos, do you?
Yeah, I do. Do you know any?
No.
Yeah, and Dom's hair looks wicked as well, with the major, kind of like a cowlick type thing. But she's
it's very serious, really. It's not like some of the more outrageous stuff she's worn throughout the series.
But Dom plays a big role in this episode too.
Yeah, she's clearly got the hots for Steve a bit, hasn't she? And he sort of flirts a bit with her.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Interesting.
Well, I guess the idea is that Steve is meant to be a younger, sort of new generation character. And I suppose Dom is like the youngest of the office staff.
Yeah.
Although we see indications later that he's part of exactly the same mindset.
Oh,
yeah. So Steve has been given the job to give Sunday Forum a full makeover and needs help from Prousey.
Sunday Forum's got three problems. One, it was run by a softcock. Two, it's presented by a softcock. Three, it features softcocks. And while we're at it, four, the opening titles. I mean, what's all that about chess pieces? I mean, chess is a game.
For softcocks.
Right, remove the softcock element.
You know they want me to keep Rick Trammon as the host.
Well, I kept Mike Moore, no problem. You're holding the reins.
I don't know how to ride the horse, Prousey.
Mate, you got three things to play with, right? You got a host, a desk, and a guest.
Interviews?
Yeah. You got to learn the art of the interview.
And that sets up the episode. Yeah, man, I swear, I wonder how many complaints they would have received for mentioning soft cock in this episode.
I'm sure I'll read about them in the Green Guide in 2 to 3 weeks.
I'm looking forward to it. So, Frontline has turned interviews into a sport, really, with point scoring.
Who wins? Who loses? It's point scoring.
Point number one. You said you'd attend a meeting on the 2nd of March. That never happened.
No, but I'd informed the council
You
on the
said
28th.
you'd attend and you reneged.
Yes, but that's not the issue in this dispute.
With due respect, Mr. Bernardi, the issue is your credibility. You said you'd be there and you weren't.
I explained
You weren't there.
No, I wasn't there. But there were a number of reasons.
Were those reasons given on the 2nd of March?
Perhaps they should have.
Did you apologise subsequently?
I still felt that the main
Okay, so we've
issue
got
in the
no
dispute
pay,
at the
no
time-
delivery, no show, no reasons and no apology.
Bam, bam, bam.
That's a really good point being made by Frontline. The problem is, for me, it's slightly undercut because he's the baddie from Charlie the Wonder Dog.
He also plays a baddie in Funky Squad as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's Working Dog's go-to baddie.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah.
I also like the use by Mike of the phrase "with due respect," which it doesn't matter what context it's used in. There's never any respect if you use the phrase "with due respect."
Oh, no offense taken, but or there's
No offense, but you are the worst person in the world is generally what follows.
Or
Like
I am not racist, however.
Yeah. Yes.
No one knew what that whole interview was about. That's pretty much at the end of the day. As long as they shoot and score those points.
Yeah,
people just want to see the fight.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we as the audience really have no idea what Mike is hammering Mr. Bernardi about, or what even Bernardi's position in the world is. And then after the interview, I don't know if you've got this clip, it turns out that Mike doesn't really know who Mr. Bernardi was either, or what they were talking about.
No, I don't have the clip, and yeah, I agree. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. He was saying how great the interview was, and he was just counting things on his hands, saying you've got no paying, no delivery, no show, no reasons, and no apology. So it just sounded like he was just rattling off all these things, but what did it actually mean? Nothing. No one knows, but they just want to see that argument. They want to see that fight, which I guess is, we see that a lot with Trump and Elon, and who knows what they're arguing about. It's always changing every single second.
Yeah.
But we just like talking about it on social media.
This sort of comes at like a lot of stuff on Frontline. It's like a point where the media is shifting, and 10 or 15 years ago, you would do interviews like this about actual political scandals. There would be, money's gone missing or something wasn't delivered. There would be some substance behind it. And Frontline is sort of at the point where there's still the sort of image of that kind of thing. But because Frontline and those shows are so rapidly churning through the news, they just latch onto anything to make it a scandal so they can have this kind of interview. And from there you get to where we are today, where none of it matters because everyone's had, a generation of these nothing point-scoring interviews go on. So nobody, when there is a real scandal, everyone just goes, doesn't matter. Who cares? It's just another, media beat-up. And you get sort of the political situation we've got now where nothing serious really matters because it's all done for social media and, for the cameras, and it's all just disconnected from reality. And Frontline is sort of showing the start of that process where...
Yeah, as it is the days before social media, bite-sized clips where, if they do that one part, they go, okay, let's corner him to get something that's under a minute. Bam, there's your Instagram/Facebook/ whatever talk.
Yeah, the Frontline interviews are just generating that kind of content before social media.
Well, this point is kind of brought up with the next commandment from Prousey.
Just before that, though, Dom gives Mike his mail, but only 2 positive letters, but he's not aware. It's like everything's been positive. So Shelley and Kate are still filtering his letters. At least that's still going. Prousey does educate Steve on the second commandment, as you mentioned, Daniel. Thou shalt anchor an interview to its emotional base.
Well, today a rapist walked free. After serving just 2 years of a 15-year sentence, the full bench of the Supreme Court gave him the keys to the door. Mal Devon, New South Wales Corrective Services Minister, how do you think the victims and their families feel tonight?
Mr Moore, I must correct you there. The Supreme Court supported an appeal.
A rapist is back on the streets.
It's a matter of judicial process.
But at the end of the day, a rapist is back on the streets.
Yep, according to the law, which was the decision of the appeal court.
A convicted rapist serves 2 years of a 15-year sentence and walks free.
The Court of Appeal decided that the original 15-year sentence was incorrect and he was paroled on the basis of the revised sentence.
How do you think the victims feel tonight?
Feels like I'm listening to 2GB.
Just hammering that point again and again.
That's quite a difficult example, though, because, quite clearly, no one wants rapists back on the streets.
Yeah,
and the real fault
there's no scope for nuance in this this interview, though.
Well, exactly, we don't know why this guy was let out, and it was probably due to some crappy legal technicality, and the issue really is about the crappy legal technicality. You know, but they don't debate that; they go for the emotion.
No, this kind of story is almost always like, somebody somewhere in the court process stuffed up, and that's the story. And but that's a long-winded and complicated story, whereas a rapist walks free is pretty much going to get people stirred up.
Because there was a bit before that interview example where Prousey sort of shows what logic in an interview gets you, which is just, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I'll just, that's all I wanted to see. I'll flick away. Whereas, tying emotion to it, gets a better reaction out of the viewer, essentially.
Yeah.
I think he used anger, frustration, hate, and disgust, and being manipulative.
Yeah, full-on manipulation, and Mike is really thirsty for it.
But you said it.
No.
You said it.
No, I didn't say it.
Look, I've got it right here. You said it, 22nd of March. You said it.
Well, yes.
So now you did say it.
But what I mean is I didn't write
What is it going to be? Did you or did you not say it?
Yes.
So they're right. You're a fake.
Yeah, never let them have any opportunity to answer the question. Just keep asking questions. Yeah.
But Prowsey points out that ego rules at the end of the day with all that. And Mike is then seen having his coffee catch up with Jeff, and he's reflecting on the interview.
You won.
Oh, that's what it's all about. Did you know that interview was an exclusive?
Yeah, really?
Yeah, they replayed part of it on the late night news.
Wow.
Hey, Jeff, do you reckon I'm seen as like a big time interviewer?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Who do you reckon's the best interviewer you've seen?
Melvin Bragg.
I was like you until I spoke to Prowse. Softcock interviews with ballet dancers and opera singers. I mean, that's not an interview, he just chats. How easy is that? Just asking a question and listening.
I think there's a little more
I can
to it.
do that. Just listen.
But what he's doing is he's
Jeff,
bringing
that's
out...
easy listening. That's a no-brainer.
No, Mike, what he's
No,
trying to
Jeff,
do-
anyone can listen. It's easy. But I've never seen him throw a punch. Soft cock.
I love how Prowsey's just rubbed off onto him, so... Yeah.
I kind of, there's a bit of a shame that Mike is doing his typical thing of just like never letting Jeff get an answer in, because I kind of want to know why Jeff thinks Melvin Bragg's a good interviewer, because I don't know Melvin Bragg's work particularly well.
No,
but I mean, you're not going to get
it's certainly not political interviewing.
No, it is interview with arts figures.
Yeah,
that Melvin Bragg was famous
just chats.
for. Well, they weren't though. They were very highly intelligent interviews quite often. But we never find out what Jeff's opinions are. Sadly.
No, I mean maybe Jeff is a cultured soul who is interested in opera singers and ballet dancers. And,
And I get that impression. I think that's true. They just want to show that contrast between the highbrow interview and that measured approach, and then this kind of combative. Approach that's
sounds
happening
like that
Frontline.
Jeffrey Salter is a Sunday arts viewer.
So then he'll be a bit disgusted of what this Sunday Forum is. Sunday Forum is more a political show, isn't it? It's more, but they might have an arts section at the end of it.
At Nine Network, that sort of show, isn't it?
So there might be a bit at the end where there's some kind of cultural bit, and they might change that up a bit.
It doesn't sound like it's got much time left under the new regime.
No.
Well, if they do keep the culture bit, instead of like interviewing, I don't know, the conductor of the Australian Symphony Orchestra, it'll be Barnsey.
Oh, it'll just be sport.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it'll be. Imagine that, the conductor of the Sydney Symphony Orchestra being asked questions like, so who do you think will win in the football? Will it be the Panthers or the Broncos?
And then there's this whole analysis of all the physical characteristics of the animal versions.
Well, Steve points out that Mike can be competitive, and Prowsey points out that he can niggle him up in just one sentence.
Gee, Lynham's interview was good last night.
What, the thing with Downer? Oh, that was so soft.
He landed a few punches.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Made him bleed a little.
Oh, you have lost it, Prowsey. You want to see blood? You wait till I interview him tomorrow night.
Yeah.
He's going to bleed from his ears, my friend. Prowsey!
You know what that just reminds me of? The Art of Gentle Persuasion.
That's right. I've got this book, Paul Lynham's book, actually, Political Speak, which is from 1991. And it talks about, basically it is about, it's a guide for what politicians are really saying and, all the spin, etc. But there's a section about interviewers, and I can read a bit out if you're interested.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so it's basically, ever heard of symbiosis? It's supposed to describe a mutually dependent relationship from which both sides benefit. like those tiny birds that dart in and out of the mouth of the crocodile, cleaning its teeth. It's much the same with politicians and journalists. Without the journos, the pollies would have a much harder time informing the folks back home of their diligence and importance. Their job security would be threatened. Without the pollies, the journos would have nothing to write about. Their job security too would be threatened. So rather than face the prospect of having to find real work, the two sides have developed an uneasy but manageable coexistence based on mutual suspicion. For journalists, the suspicion is fueled by the fact that pollies try to control the flow of information so that they and their party are always seen in the very best light, and in the US, this is known as spin control. In Australia, it's known as bullshit. Nowadays, there's a multi-million-dollar industry of media consultancy that teaches pollies how not to answer journalists' questions, especially in radio and TV interviews. You can spot the graduates in performances like this, and then it just has a Q&A where you've got an interviewer saying, "Mr. Humbug, thanks for joining us," and the politician is and it's basically just this bit of banter, which is kind of a little bit like what Mike's doing, I suppose, in a way, but the politician is a little bit more savvy in this scenario where, but there's basically saying things like the interview is saying, "Oh, so it's just innuendo, you deny it?" And then the politician says, "Paul, you and I know," and then in brackets, "let's keep this chummy stuff going at all costs." So it's a bit of a lengthy kind of script that basically is a bit of a satire, but it's got lots of elements of truth in it. And there's also a glossary of terms. If anyone wants to read a letter of the alphabet, I can look at a particular term.
Q.
Oh, I don't know if there's a Q in there. It's like a really random letter.
Would there be, under S, would there be a soft cock at all?
All right. It could be. There is a Q, question without notice. A short speech disguised as a question that prompts a long speech disguised as an answer. Also, so under S, there isn't that. There's sabotage, which what cooks at party fundraisers do to chicken. So,
I thought it'll be like a Beastie
there's
Boys.
Snap election, the one they call just before things go from bad to worse.
Oh.
That's quite accurate, that one.
There you go. Thank you very much for that, Kim.
The intro bit that you read out, that's very much of its time, because it suggests that politicians need the journalists to get their stories out. Well, these days they can just go off on TikTok or whatever.
Yeah, they can control their own destiny and their own
yeah, they can. And also
celebrity.
Yeah, and we've seen many of them refuse to speak to the real media because, you know, or be very partisan in the media that they choose to do. And they'll often do things like accuse the mainstream media of bias. And so I'm not going on that because these people are biased. And therefore I'm going to go on these shows which are sympathetic to my opinions. And that's all they do.
Which is just as biased.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I always find it interesting when people say, I don't want to appear on a program where you're going to edit up what I say into little clips, which is, you know, what they do on Frontline so effectively. They'll only go on these long form podcasts that are not edited. But there's but those podcasts are also problematic because it depends, even if you've got 3 hours, you know, if the interview is crap, you're not going to get anything out of them over the 3 hours.
Yeah, so, kind of like this podcast. The real raw recordings that no one else hears.
Yeah, but all the stuff we cut out is basically libelous, isn't it?
Especially for the next point. You ready, Tony?
We're all gearing up for this next point.
Well,
that's what you want me here for.
Yeah, Prowsey points out that Steve can do wall-to-wall head kicks on the Sunday Forum if he wants to. He just needs to choose the targets.
How do you work out who's the right target?
You don't. There's a list. Em, here are our targets.
Who are your targets?
Yeah, mine.
Bruce Ruxton, Fred Nile, Alan Bond, Pauline Hanson.
She's the A-list.
Colston, Tunstall, that Monica Scott.
Yeah. That's just the Aussies. Right, who's that pommy that I love, the historian?
Or as Mike refers to him as Professor Haight.
He's an apologist for Hitler, right? He's the ultimate target. It's like when the Iron Sheik comes on in the wrestling. Boo!
He's not an apologist for Hitler.
He is what he's perceived to be. We're booing at perceptions.
And avoiding facts.
So you're sticking up for him.
Don't try that one on me.
God, let's face it, you're sticking up for him.
Classic ploy.
I mean, let's face it, you're just sticking up for Hitler.
No, I'm not. I'm just sticking up for the truth.
Your truth. Like the Holocaust never occurred?
I have never said that. What I said was that figures have been exaggerated.
Exaggerated by Jewish interests?
Yes.
There you go again. You seem obsessed by the Jews.
Because you keep asking.
Because you keep bringing up Hitler and the Holocaust.
I'm a historian.
Who is obsessed with the Jews.
You keep saying that and I keep denying it. Where are your facts, Mr. Moore? You don't seem to have any facts.
All right, I'll give you a fact. You are an anti-Semite. You are sticking up for Hitler.
Tony, knock yourself out.
Just because I wrote a book titled Sticking Up for Hitler, I don't know why you keep... This is a very weird thing to watch now because, it's
it is.
Irving. David Irving is, notorious. Why has Frontline got him on as an example of someone who's hard done by on Frontline when he's a Holocaust denier? But the thing is that when this episode was made, David Irving had a relatively long career as a serious historian. He was not a crank or a kook yet. He was just a historian of the Third Reich who had I don't know a great deal about him, but he'd come up with these theories that the numbers of people killed in the Holocaust were less than what is generally assumed. And he'd approached it as a sort of a historical debate where it's like, one side says this, the other side says that. The truth is in the middle or whatever, and we hash it out.
Well, the accepted figure is 6 million were killed in the Holocaust, and he said less than that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had
5.9999999 million, yeah.
Well, no. It was significantly less was what his figure
lower.
was.
It was like, I think he said like 2 million or something.
Oh, shit.
And his theory was that
Oh, that makes it all right then.
Well, his theory was that he went out to the death camps and he said, look, there's no way you could have killed that many people here. And everyone who knew what they were talking about just went, you are a fool and your opinions are wrong and you should go away. But because he was a historian, and in historical debates, you have these things. People will say, how many people died from, this disaster or that disaster or this cultural thing or war, and there'll be a debate about it. The Holocaust is not like that. The Holocaust is not a thing where you can have a historical debate about it. There are living people who have been directly affected by it, who have, rightly so, strong views. And his views were, incorrect. And basically, instead of backing off, he doubled down. And he ended up being an example of the kind of thing you see online a lot. The example that came to mind for me was someone like Graham Linehan, the comedy writer, who basically...
Oh, Linehan.
Linehan, thank you.
I used to follow him on Twitter before he went all activist.
Yes.
We all did.
Yeah. And they say something that's incorrect. They get called out on it. And instead of going, oh, sorry, they go, no, I know.
I'll revise my views.
Yeah. They go, I know what I'm talking about. You don't. I'll double down. And they keep on going. And that's what happened with David Irving. And at this point, when he's on Frontline, he hasn't fully revealed himself to be a nutcase and, a Holocaust denier. He was just like starting his creepy journey. And so Frontline has clearly got him on as an example of the kind of person that shows like Frontline Railroad. It's just that realistically, Frontline was right. Everything Mike Moore says is correct.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the second case in this episode where it's could have used a better example because we had the rape
point. But this is the wrong guy to be saying, oh, Frontline's doing you dirty. It's like, no, they're right.
No, Mike was good to call that out.
Yeah. Mike was 100% right. This is
the exception that proves the rule, really. And there's quite a good bit later where they talk about how there's a big debate in Australia about whether this professor can come to Australia. And, the government's going, oh, should we block him and all this? Frontline airs his views anyway, and they pay him money to do so. So Frontline are sort of exaggerating the problem,
Yeah, they're really sort of,
having it both ways.
It's what would now in these internet times be called platforming.
Yeah.
They're stirring it up for the ratings and that.
But the thing is as well back then that free speech free speech, the idea of free speech has changed a lot since Frontline. Like when Frontline was out, it was before the internet, really. So free speech was the right to say things that you couldn't get in the mainstream. It was, brave to say something that you wouldn't normally hear. Whereas now, that's all you hear is stuff that you wouldn't normally hear. And what people, when they say they, support free speech, it's like, I want the right to not have to put up with this crap. I want to hear, sensible people making reasonable views instead of this rubbish. Whereas 30 years ago, you had to work hard to find the rubbish. And it was it was culturally like, wow, this guy's saying stuff that other people won't. What a brave dude. Whereas now it's like, this guy's saying stuff people won't. What a dickhead.
Plus, there's so many more avenues for these people to say what they want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even need mainstream media. Just put it out on the internet, and there's an audience for it.
Yeah, it's really, I do wonder watching this episode, like what somebody, coming to it fresh, some young person watching this who'd never seen it before, what you would make of it, because it comes from such a different media environment that you would be sitting there going, is Frontline good or bad? I can't tell. I don't know what they're coming from. It's just the world has changed so much in some ways since then that some parts of this is just like, wait, Frontline is saying Nazis are good now? And it's not. But it's just
because Emma's kind of defending this Irving-like professor, isn't she? She's saying that he's not, a Holocaust denier or a Nazi sympathizer or whatever.
It's more or less the whole thing of just the irony of pointing out the fact that Frontline was broadcasting his views when they were trying to kind of block the fact that he was coming to the country. And they paid him to do that. So
the thing as well is that at the time, David Irving wasn't it's a technical point, but it's like he technically wasn't a full-on Holocaust denier. He was like saying the Holocaust happened, but the numbers weren't what we assume, different numbers, but it still happened. But he went on a journey that ended in a very unpleasant place. And it's like, well, Emma is probably correct for the 1996 David Irving, but like the 2001 Irving on, no, not at all. And it's just
not
in a way Frontline just couldn't predict that once again one of their examples would fall down a pit of madness.
Yeah.
You nailed that Nazi guy.
Oh, he got a few punches in, but I reckon the scoreboard had me in front at the end of the day.
You nailed him.
You know what they're calling me around the office these days?
Uncle Scrooge.
What?
No, I don't.
So where'd the Uncle Scrooge come from?
I don't know. I was thinking about something else.
Concentrate, Jeff.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, they're calling me the Velvet Hammer.
Oh, just like Yana, the perfume steamroller.
Yeah, but hammers are stronger than steamrollers.
Really?
Yeah, in terms of pressure exerted per square inch.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing tests.
Good.
We're doing tests.
See, there you go.
They've got a team out the back with hammers just banging away.
Hammers and steamrollers.
Yana's stilettos would exert more pressure.
Yeah. On a very small area.
Yes,
that's true.
Well, Steve asks if Mike has to do research when it's actually Emma who does it all, while Mike just has to look informed. And they cut to an example where Mike is looking informed with his guest, with the binder and everything, pointing out all the stats and everything else like that, even though he has no idea what it's all about. But a bored Marty does enter the chat where he provides an example where he tells Steve that everyone likes Mike, well, the viewer likes Mike, not necessarily the staff, as they try and make him look normal. Now, just like in the debate between Howard and Keating is an example.
So, John, Paul, do either of you know the price of a loaf of bread?
$1.80 is a loaf of bread.
What's a litre of milk cost?
See, here's a funny thing, right? He's called him by John and Paul and hasn't got... so Mr. Howard or Mr. Keating, or Prime Minister, do they usually would call them by their first names?
I think that footage is from a Ray Martin shared debate, and I'm pretty sure that back then, and even on today's debates, they still call them Mr. This or whatever. So when he said,
it's actually in the credits, I should say, the great debate footage courtesy of Office of the Prime Minister, Office of the Honourable PJ Keating, and the Nine Network.
Yep, here's a snippet here. I couldn't find the exact moment because I did search for $1.80 and read in all that stuff in the transcripts, but I just got a grab towards the end of the actual debate that's on YouTube.
In a word, you may not like this bloke, but do you respect him? In a word?
I don't think he's been a good Prime Minister. I don't have anything against him as an individual, but I think he's been a very poor Prime Minister.
All right, we'll leave it there. Paul Keating, we thank you for your time. John Howard, we thank you for your time. We might talk about foreign debt and things like that the next time round. Would you be prepared to come next time?
My friend here will be in it. I'm always in it, mate.
If it's this format, Ray?
Yeah, I am always in it, mate.
Do you know what? I thought you were going to cut to that bit from Martin Malloy where they cut together all the bits where they're talking all over each other.
No, that was a legit grab. So
yeah, that's the real thing.
Yeah, that's how messy it was. So,
but yeah, I think Mike might have called Mr. Howard and Mr. Keating by their first names to sort of appear sort of chummy,
friendly,
man of the people kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It did make me think, wouldn't have been hilarious if like the leader of the Democrats had been called George and the leader of the Greens had been called Ringo. But they weren't.
And also, isn't it interesting that, the more things change, the more things stay the same in terms of whether politicians know the prices of bread and milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd kill for $1.80 again for bread and milk, yeah.
Well, there's another bit coming up where we see a 1997 price, which I'm ready to point out. I'm poised and ready to point this out.
All right.
You're going to love it.
Well, also, I'm surprised. Do any of you know how much a loaf of bread or a litre of milk costs nowadays?
Average $3.50 for a loaf of bread. But it all depends. If you get like Helga's or Abbott's bakery one, that's like $3.40, $3.50, and then milk is
like
I buy 1 litre UHTs now, so they're $1 at Aldi.
It's like $3.80 for when I buy the fancy fat-free milk that I get, it's like $3.80 for 1.25 litres, I think, something like that.
Well, you see, I didn't know the price either, but I went and looked in the supermarket. So, like for a litre carton of own brand milk, it's $1.55 in Coles and Woolies, $1.80 in Brakes, which is one of the South Australian independents. And a loaf of bread at Coles and Woolies is $2.70 for your standard sliced white sandwich, $3 in Drake's. So,
it's that kind of gotcha question that politicians have to be well prepared for in this day and age. But I remember when Dutton and Albo were asked how much are eggs, I thought, oh my God, I know what bread is. If you'd asked me what bread is, I would have known.
Well, the thing is that I know when I go and do my shopping, I buy bread and milk and a bunch of other things and take them to the checkout and then pay what they tell me. Yeah. I don't sort of sit there and go, oh, what's the price of milk? Can I afford it? It's like, well, I've got to buy it and I can't haggle with the shopkeeper. So,
Or you go, what is the price of a loaf of bread and milk? It's like, it depends if you get the, clearance item ones that can be like 5-10% off, because it's about to expire in 2 days.
But
that's what I want to see in debates. I want to see more quibbling going, and they're like, well, if you go at the end of the day, they've marked down the cost of the bread.
When they put all the reduced for quick stale stickers on.
Yeah. And that's when I go, because I'm a bargain hunter, and obviously I've got time as a senior politician to go and hunt those bargains. So I'm only paying $2.
Yes.
And,
and then if you use your rewards program or whatever, you can get 10% off your grocery shop.
So they could go to the bakery at the end of the day when they're discarding some of them, and they could grab some for free.
Exactly. If you dumpster dive, it's free.
Yeah.
You never see Albo talking about that, do you?
No.
How much is bread in the UK now, Alison? Just out of curiosity.
I was hoping you weren't going to ask this question.
Okay, let's move on.
I don't buy bread that often, but I do know that if you go to Waitrose and you look for the yellow stickers on the sourdough, right? And that's
sourdough.
because the sourdough's going off. And I buy it to put in the freezer, right? I last got some sourdough for £2.35.
Which is $5 here.
Yeah. But that sourdough will last me for probably several months because I don't eat very much bread.
Same here. I don't eat much bread. I think if I go into my freezer right now, there's a loaf of bread there from January this year.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, when I think about what I actually pay attention to price-wise, it's like I know how much the microwave meals at Coles cost. I know
For me, it's coffee. Like, I know how much a coffee is. So last time I was in Australia, I ordered a coffee. This is like early 2024, and it was $6.
But if you go to 7-Eleven, you can get it for $1.50, and it used to be $1.
But it seemed if you went to proper coffee shops and you sat down and had it in the shop, it was generally $6 seemed to be the price.
Average.
And that was in Melbourne as well. That was about $6.
And then add 50 cents to 80 cents if you're going to get fancy milk.
I no, that was with almond milk. It was $6. So it might have gone up since then.
It's about $5 for a long black.
Yeah.
And I usually have large size. But I don't have any milk
But
in
as
that.
you said, Tony, you only really pay attention to things when you're buying one item. If you're buying a basket of shopping, it sort of all goes into a mix and you end up paying whatever you pay.
And there's a lot of things as well. At least when I go shopping, there's a bunch of things they're never on special. The price is the price. And I don't pay attention to that price, but there's stuff that I buy that will be on special. And so I'm there going, oh, is, the 1.25 of Pepsi marked down this week? Nah, all right, we'll leave it this week. And that kind of thing where you actually pay attention. But yeah, bread and milk and eggs is usually you pay what you pay. There's not a lot of, well, milk's half price. Screw you, farmers, I'm stocking up. It's kind of...
And the farmers do a great job.
Yeah. Basically, if they were to reboot The Price is Right, none of us would be able to get the prices correct.
No.
And neither would the politicians, and certainly not Mike Moore.
Well, honestly, Price is Right, the furniture and the TV set will be cheaper than the bread and milk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the car would be cheaper than the bread, right?
Steve's concerned about the head-kicking techniques, though.
So, what do you reckon?
Oh, I reckon we could be okay with the regular bloke stuff, but I'm a little bit worried about the head-kicking thing, Is he up to it?
Well, he doesn't have to do it all himself. There are plenty of ways to get the job done, like you show a backgrounder first.
What? Well, what's that about?
We'll speak to the director of the Real Estate Institute in a moment, but first, this background story.
The background story tries, convicts, and sentences the poor bastard.
Another prison visit. And at the building site, no sign of anyone. It seems that the Institute's assurances count for nothing.
Martin D'Astasio. Well, Mr. Patterson, pretty damning stuff. How do you respond?
Priceless. No.
Now this is the bit where you very briefly see a 1997 sign for a price, and it says land $59,999 for a piece of land on this building site. So I don't know what land costs these days if you buy a block of land. Probably a lot more than that.
Nearly 400, 500 thou.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's probably still that much if you're going in the middle of the outback and you want some, toxic waste dump.
Well, this looked like it was on the edge of Melbourne or somewhere like that at the
it is
time,
well.
which is now probably like a middle suburb or something.
Yeah, it's probably like a centre or something now.
Yeah.
Well, the trick is to either get another reporter or a guest to do Mike's dirty work, really. And part of the art of having a basket full of phrases, I'll say it again. And part of the art, though, is to have a basket full of phrases and expressions on hand. And I absolutely love this montage of stuff.
But you'd have to accept. Mr. Lake, it's obvious to all. The facts still remain. Well, perhaps at the end of the day, though. But you have to admit. That's not what the experts are saying. And you really believe what you're saying? Do you still stand by what you said last week? But surely.
And you know what? I love the fact that The only way you could really tell each part was different was because of his tie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have been
That
fun.
would have taken so long to just record all those tiny little bits because he's got to change shirts and jackets and ties and, it would have taken hours just
And
for
have
that tiny sequence.
different inflections and all that too.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
different versions of it in the different tie and then change outfit again and do it all again. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's also body language used in interviews. The knowledgeable listener, and like they show styles that Mike does with the hand gestures, so it's more or less a visual thing. Little fist for the mind, and the point of the pen ready to strike, and the pained eyebrows, and the cocked head. So, yeah, all those cliche moves. Then there's the art of the repeat.
But if you strike a prick who knows what he's doing, you just repeat the accusation. You're a broken record. Just keep repeating.
And then what?
Keep repeating. Just keep repeating.
Just keep repeating.
Just keep repeating.
Mr. Moore, nothing could be clearer. My department was completely exonerated in the inquiry.
I'll say it again, Minister. 3 people are dead.
Yes, you've said that. And what I'm saying to you is that the department was not at fault.
How do you think the parents and families of those 3 dead fishermen feel?
Of course, they have our deepest condolences.
3 people are dead and your department has its head in the sand.
I won't accept
3
that.
3 people are dead.
Repeat, repeat, repeat.
So you just keep repeating?
You just repeat.
You just keep repeating?
Repeat. You just keep repeating.
Huh.
Yeah.
Just keep repeating.
Just keep repeating, Daniel. Repeat.
How long can we make this joke last?
I don't know. How long can we make this joke last?
It's just hit repeat.
Depends on how often we repeat it, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Just repeat. Repeat the joke. Sorry. What? Anyway, but it all ends in a draw. This is like foreshadowing. This is exactly what Paul Lynham said in his book, Kim.
Oh, that's right. They'll always need us, and then we'll always need them. That's what Martin's saying.
Exactly. So maybe they
or
got
do
that,
they in the modern world?
In the modern age, probably not.
They just
but
need someone.
You would argue there is still, the media still
there
does
is
exist
still.
to some extent. So just more fragmented.
Yeah.
So not as much, I suppose.
Exactly. Now, Dom asked,
and then basically the interview we just saw where they just kept repeating, ends on a very sort of preposterous note.
Yeah. Yes, Dom asked Prousey if a letter for Mike is a good one or bad one, in which Prousey tells her to shred it. But they can't stop Mike from seeing what critics end up writing.
Prousey? Yeah. So Philip Adams reckons I'm a mindless point scorer, eh? Not according to the Baltic States Council of Australia. Dear Mr. Moore, thank you for your forthright interview last Wednesday night. Your attacks on SBS General Management were music to all Lithuanian ears. The Professional Fishermen's Association of New South Wales. Wow. Dear Mr. Moore, it's about time! ! Someone stood up to the Minister over the deaths of our 3 members last June. I should fax this to Stuart Littlemore.
Yeah. Actually, let's do it now. I've got a fax machine right here.
No, Jeff, I said I should. I said I should.
You're not going to?
I didn't say I was going to.
Oh, okay.
No, don't fax.
You sure? Because I've got
He scares me, Jeff.
He scares me.
Now, did anyone notice where... I was about to call him by his real name.
When Mike and Prousey were in the same room, what was in the background?
Yes.
So, yes, a couple of posters prominently in the background.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
One for a recently released movie called The Castle.
And Poop Shoot still
Poop
continues.
Shoot.
Yeah. So...
Who says we can't advertise on the ABC?
Oh, and there was also something which looked a bit like a guide dog's calendar.
No, that doesn't count.
Or maybe it was a Charlie the Wonder Dog calendar.
Okay, that counts.
Now, I'm not entirely sure of the order of things, but was this like when Dom came in this segment, her hair's completely different.
Yeah, she's changed her
There's
hairstyle.
bulldog clips in it.
Yeah, bulldog clips. What an amazing look that is. She's obviously been through the stationery cupboard and thought, I've got some inspo here.
Yeah, when you talk about raiding the stationery cupboard, you talk about grabbing a few pens and notebooks, not the bulldog clips.
I do have noticed, though, in the past that, there's been like an episode or two where it could be the same day type thing, and Dom does change her hair midway through, So she's always constantly styling her hair, depending on her mood.
So, basically we're not sure if they're continuity errors or not.
Well, as Prousey...
Who's to say?
Yeah. As Prowsey sums up the chat, Mike walks in to pass on his congrats to Steve.
It's I just come up to get a few tips, you know.
Oh, happy to help. Don't call me the Velvet Hammer for nothing. So where do we start?
Look, sorry, mate, I've got to go.
Sure, you'd be
I've got to
busy
go.
as a bumblebee.
Yeah.
No worries.
Listen, but I want to get your input.
Yep.
For Rick, you know, for the whole interviewing thing.
Oh, sure. Well, I guess I got a few flying hours up now.
Yeah.
But just tell Rick it's pretty simple at the end of the day.
Right.
Keep your viewers informed, stay an independent arbiter, and never let an interview degenerate into a fight.
Well, that's pretty much what Prowsey said.
So at the beginning of all this, you know, you've got Steve is very naive, willing to learn, and basically just listening to anything that Prowsey's saying. And Prowsey's got his feet up on the table, all casual with the cowboy boots. And by this stage, now you've got Steve with his feet up as well, and he's like, "Yep, I know everything now. I've just
he's gone full native, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's gone full
Prowsey. Now has learnt everything. So yeah, it's basically.
Do you think that when he graduates from the Prowsey School of Executive Producing, he gets given his ceremonial cowboy boots?
That's a prize.
And
I also quite like the point that that Prowsey made just before this, talking about those television anniversary specials. In this case, it was 40 years, and that you know, they're never going to show an interview where the issues are being fleshed out on that. It's all, quote, people walking off, sets falling down, dogs pissing. Bullshit, unquote.
Yeah, on those 40 years of TV compilations, when they did current affairs, it was all the stuff like, you know, that fight on the midday show with Norman Rowe and...
GST birthday cake, and then you ain't wrong, Yana. I'll tell you in another
wasn't
place.
The hard interviews at all, you know, where people got information on, you know, issues of the day, probably because people had forgotten what those issues were.
And there's always the jump into the lake and then tough titties. And what's the other one? Please explain, and all those little highlight little grabs and stuff that. Oh, and who has said it and where? You know, all those little bits.
Oh, Margaret Thatcher.
Thank you.
She basically wanted their names so she could presumably track them down.
Yes.
If you give me their names, I'll pass them on to MI5. I assume that was the plan.
Possibly, yeah. But after Mike remembers why he came into the office to give Prowsey some tapes, in a post-credit scene, though, right at the very, very end.
Now, I think because the running time was running so short, what was supposed to be under the credits, they decided to put after the credits to fill in more time.
Yeah, and this is...
What do you reckon?
I'd say so, because they're just rattling off nicknames.
I just don't think the Velvet Hammer's going to catch on.
Why not?
Oh, it's the Velvet, I think. It's too velvety.
The Hessian Hammer?
No, let's just drop the hammer. What else do we have on the list?
The steam press?
No.
The mallet?
No, too... melody.
Pliers?
No, that implies extraction.
Well, you're extracting information, I mean.
Yeah, but not through my teeth. Also, I want an element of force.
The toe cutter?
Too harsh.
The nail clipper?
Too soft. I know. The scud.
No, I think there's a tennis player that's got that nickname.
Oh, come on, Jeff. Tennis players come and go.
Quick draw more.
Quick draw more.
I mean, it's better than the spirit level.
Quick draw more. We're back to cowboys again.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That basically that concludes Frontline Season 3, Episode 9, and the Champagne Comedy Podcast, Episode 75.
Still the same length as all the other episodes.
Yes.
When we cut out all the crap,
there was nothing in the program guide which said what they did for the other 9 or so minutes until Four Corners.
I was going to ask you about that, whether they played like a 5-minute thing or something.
Well, they probably played some promos to say, this is what you can buy at the ABC shop, like Birds of a Feather or the best
5 minutes of promos for the ABC shop.
Dad's Army and...
But nothing in the guide for that.
Well, because they used to have, bits and bobs that they would use to fill gaps. I mean, I know daytime television still does it. Channel 7 will show like a musical performance from some American morning show just to pad out the gap between, the midday movie and 3 episodes of The Chase back to back. So presumably back then the ABC would have, and here's a bit from the big gig that we can show you or something.
Oh, or they're probably...
At least it might not have been like in the 70s or 80s where they would have shown up a test pattern or a clock or a photo of a rabbit.
Footage of someone doing pottery.
No, they would have played the music clip of Roger Glover and the butterfly ball. Love is all.
Oh. You 80s kid, you.
Love is all. Yeah, I'm not going to sing that. That's got to be copyright smack right there.
How long does the plank go for? Could they have fitted that in?
That's about half an hour. Well, it depends which version of the plank are you talking about, Tony, because there's 2.
Oh, God, okay. We'll save that for the Plank podcast.
Done.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
we'll do a full Eric Sykes podcast. We'll do Mr. H is late.
Oh, God. Well, feel free to...
Mr. H, you say?
Yeah. Oh, no. You brought out the Hitler book. Email complaints to champagnelateshow@gmail.com and I'll forward them on to Tony. Check this episode's show notes for our socials, Facebook search Champagne Comedy Podcast Group, etc. buymeacoffee.com/TLS Champagne Pod we need a shot of coffee big time. So again, thank you, Alison, Daniel, Kim, Tony. Thanks. And you, the listener, I'm Matt. We'll catch you in the next episode. 4 more to go.
Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to the Champagne Comedy Podcast, created by fans for the fans. For more information on this podcast, please visit champagnecomedy.com. Produced by Matt Fulton Productions, mattfulton.com.au. It's worth it because of Jeremy Sears. It's your right to survive. It's been a while. Some win, some lose. It's either that or I'm going to re-sing 5 O'Clock World.
No one wants that.